All right, we're continuing these lesson 05 notes on writing linear equations, and this is example number 9 from the notes where we're given 2 points on a line and we're told to write the equation of the line given those 2 points. And once again, no matter what your instructions say on your homework assignment, just write your equations in slope-intercept form, okay? So the process will be the same, except instead of writing the form that they ask you to, whether that's point slope or standard form, your answers are all going to be in slope-intercept form. All right, so the first thing to do is find the slope. And this goes back to the previous examples that we looked at where we had to use the slope formula. And so we plug in, this is my second y, and my first y, this is the second x divided by the difference between, well, the second x minus the first x. Sorry. All right, so 6 minus 8 is -2. 7 minus -3 is 10, but we can reduce this and we can make it -1/5. So the slope of the line is -1/5. And now I'm going to pick one of these points, just one. And again, I'm plugging into y equals mx plus b. The goal here, I know what m is now, but I have to find out what b is to complete the writing of this equation. So I'm going to pick one of these two ordered pairs, and I'm going to go with this one because most people like to stay away from negatives. And so I'm going to let this go in for x, 7. And 6 go in for y, and -1/5 will go in for m, and then I'll be able to solve for b and complete all the parts that I need to write the equation. Okay, so let's substitute 6 for y equals -1/5 m, 7 is x, and then solve for b. Okay, when we do the multiplication here, -1/5 times 7 is -7/5. So I'm going to be adding 7/5 to both sides. So I'm just going to change 6 into a fraction denominator 5 so it matches this one. And I know that 30 divided by 5 is 6. So I'm just going to mark out the 6. It's still equal to 6, but it's a fraction now that has the same denominator as this, and so I can add these two together without any problem. So when I add 7/5 to both sides, I get 37/5 is equal to b. And now that I know m and I know b, I can go ahead and write this equation. So I'll just put my answer in blue. Y equals -1/5 x plus 37/5. And that is my final answer. So it involves using the slope formula that you learned probably in Algebra 1 and we reviewed in the previous slides. And then from there, pick one of these ordered pairs to plug in for x and y, solve for b, and then you pretty much have it. And all of these work in that way. And this is what you'll be doing on this block of problems. Okay, so now let's talk about the slopes of perpendicular lines. That's what this symbol refers to. And then we'll talk about the slopes of parallel lines. Well, the thing about perpendicular lines is they have opposite reciprocal slopes. So let me just review what that means with you. Let's say that I've got a line, just give you some examples not related to this problem, and then we'll come back to this problem. All right, so let me just give an example like this. There's a line y equals 1/3 x plus 5. Okay, the line that's perpendicular to that, this is a symbol for perpendicular, the slope of this line that I've just given you is 1/3. Well, for a line that's perpendicular to that, it would have a slope of -3. Notice, I did the opposite. That means the opposite sign. This is positive. I made it negative. And then I did the reciprocal. That means we flip it over. So I had to do both of those things to come up with the slope of a line perpendicular to another line. Okay, let me do another one. Y equals 5x minus 3. Okay, the slope of this line is 5. So for a line that's perpendicular to it, it would have a slope of negative 1/5. See how that works? Okay, let's try one more. Y equals 2/3 x plus 9. All right, well, the slope of this line is 2/3. So for the line that's perpendicular to it, it would have a slope of negative 3/2. And I've started with all positive, so let me just do one more where I start with a negative. Negative 5/3 x minus 2. Then the slope of this is negative 5/3, so the slope of the line perpendicular to it would be positive 3/5. Okay, opposite, reciprocal. Okay, so keep that in mind, and let me just erase these examples. Hopefully that kind of sets up what we're going to be doing with this problem. So I know that the line that I have to write the equation for goes through this point, and it's perpendicular to this line. Well, the slope of the given line is 4. So the slope of the line I'm going to write that's perpendicular to this is going to be negative 1/4. Okay? The only purpose for giving me this equation is to help me know what slope to use. And now I'm done with this. So when you see problems like this in the future, and this is a common mistake that people make, when you see these equations that are given, some people like to use this number as well as a y-intercept. The only purpose for giving you this equation is to help you get the slope. And once you've identified what slope to use, you are done with this. So don't use any other y-intercept number. Do not use anything else from this equation when you go to write the equation for this other line. Okay? So it's really now, if you think about it, it's just like this problem where we found the slope and we picked one of the ordered pairs to plug in for x and y. Well, the only thing is now we don't have a choice. We have to use this ordered pair for x and y to go along with m. And we're going to solve for b. So it's really just like we did in the previous problem at this point. All right, so remember y equals mx plus b. So y is negative 3. M is negative 1/4. X is 5. And I'm going to be solving for b. Negative 3 is negative 5/4 plus b. Now I'm going to change, just like I did in the previous problem, I'm going to change negative 3 into fourths. And hopefully you can see that that's negative 12/4. So let's just mark out negative 3 and make this negative 12/4. And now I'm going to be adding 5/4. I'll just show that. I'm going to add 5/4 to both sides. And I get negative 7/4 equals b. Okay? So I know the slope, I know the y-intercept. That's really all I need to write the equation. And so my final answer here, y equals negative 1/4 x minus 7/4. And that's it. That is my answer for letter 10A. Okay, so let's see if we can do a parallel example. Well, the thing about parallel lines is completely different. Parallel lines have the same slope. So if I find the slope, it works very much like the previous problem, but this time I'll need to find the slope. So we can't see the slope easily in standard form. So let's change it in this equation into slope-intercept form. Okay, just solving it for y. I subtracted 2x from both sides. I'm going to divide by negative 3 on both sides. Okay, now I can see the slope. The slope of this given line is positive 2/3. That means that the slope of the line perpendicular to it that I need to write the equation for this line that goes through the point 2,3, I'm going to use also, it's not perpendicular, I'm sorry, it's parallel. I'm also going to use 2/3. Okay, parallel lines have the same slope. So when you find the slope of the line that you're given, if the two lines are parallel, you just use that same slope and the ordered pair that you're given for x and y. And it's really, you can see a lot of similarity in these problems. They all pretty much work the same way. Okay, again, I'm done with this. Don't need anything else from this equation. I know what slope to use, so now I'm just going to plug in 3 for y, 2/3 for m, 2 for x, and I'm going to solve for b. All right, so this is 4/3 plus b. I'm going to change 9 into I'm going to change 3 into a fraction in thirds, and that's 9/3, 9 over 3. Now I subtract 4/3 from both sides, and I get 5/3 is equal to b. All right, and now when you found the y-intercept and you found the slope, you're ready to write the equation. Y equals 2/3 x plus 5/3. And that's your answer. So once again, perpendicular lines, opposite reciprocal slopes. Find the slope of the given line, flip it and change it, and then use that number for your slope to write the equation. Okay? Don't use anything else from this equation except what you need to help identify the slope. All right? Opposite reciprocal for perpendicular. Parallel, they're quite a bit easier. When you find the slope of the given line, you use that same number for slope in the line that you're supposed to write the equation for. Okay? Parallel lines have the same slope. Okay, and I hope that helps, and you have the assignment. If you have any questions, let me know.